I've been a property investor for over 20 years. In that time, I've built a $30 million property portfolio and been involved in more than $50 million worth of development transactions. When it comes to flipping a house, leasing it for passive income, or taking on a development, it really comes down to two fundamental different investing strategies: active versus passive. In today's video, I'll share exactly how I approach each strategy and how to position yourself to build genuine generational wealth. Let's get into it. Now, for me, the secret was not doing active or passive. It was doing both of these things at the same time, consistently over a long period of time. Let's have a look at an example to illustrate a point. Mel and I got married in 2008 and we bought a studio apartment in the suburb of Elizabeth Bay in Sydney to live in together. It was barely 30 square meters internally and it was in pretty average condition. Purchase price was $240,510. So with stamp duty and costs, it owed us about $250K. We did a cosmetic renovation, updating the floors, paint and kitchen. We actually converted the internal floor plan from a studio to a one bedroom, so the kitchen and living area were separated. Costs all up were around $10,000 at the time. Now, we very quickly outgrew that apartment, so a year later we put it on the market and sold it for $326,000. So the numbers over a 12-month period: the purchase, renovation and costs were a total of $260K, sale price was $326K, and agent fees about $6K. So $70,000 in profit over a 12-month period after all costs. What is interesting to see is if some 6 years later, the buyers had resold that property for $457,000 in exactly the same condition that they bought it, which works out around a 5.8% compound annual growth rate, around the normal growth rate in the market. They ended up making $131,000 gross profit, which is probably more like $100K once you take into account buying and selling costs. It's hard to say what it'd be worth today, but if you look online, it suggests somewhere around the guide of $640 to $780K is achievable. So had we just held onto that property, then we could have continued to enjoy the passive capital growth. But instead, what we did with the active investing, we were able to accelerate our return on capital. Now, property development is just a more extreme version of active investing. An example of where this worked for us was that when we had to sell our owner-occupied home in order to fund a development project. That home sold for $1.85 million. And over the 2-year duration of the development, we would have been lucky for that home to have increased in value by $150K to say $2 million. The net profit we made from the development was around $1.1 million. So it was a far better return than just holding on and waiting for growth. Sounds great, right? You do it every day of the week, but keep in mind, we've also had projects where we've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, or we would have been better off just leaving our money in the bank. Ultimately, property development is a business, and just like any other business, it requires time, knowledge, and resources to make it work. So whilst it has been something that has worked really well for us, there are plenty of horror stories out there where people would have been much better off simply taking the passive investing route. So yes, it can be great, but only if you've got experience and the right team around you. And with that being said, thank you for watching this short practical breakdown. I'll see you in the next video.